Hey everyone, welcome to Everything in Poderation, because sometimes the internet's been too much this past week, y'all. It's been
way too
oh my god,
much.
It's been awful. I'm Robert, and I'm just disappointed.
I'm Daily, and I'm SMH shaking my head.
I'm Colin, and honestly, guys, I'm gonna take this opportunity real quick. So in 1789, as you guys know, there was a little document called the Constitution of the United States of America that was ratified. Mm-hmm. And in that Constitution, there's something called the First Amendment, which a lot of people have been quoting a lot. But I'm gonna just like quote you exactly what the First Amendment is directly from Google.
Oh, nothing like starting off a podcast with a civics class. Let's go.
Yeah. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances.
Yeah, I don't get it, but free speech.
Free speech.
Yeah, free speech.
I'm going to latch onto that and forget everything else.
Yeah, my rights. I'm an American. Okay, I hate this already. So, let me paint a picture for you. If you haven't guessed, we're talking about the coup, the actual coup, an insurrection attack on the Capitol from last Wednesday, and everything else that's been following after since, up through Saturday, because that's when we're recording this. Because I bet shit's gonna hit the wall even further, probably, before next week.
And honestly, probably by the time you're hearing this is probably going to be outdated, because something else happened, and if you're on Twitter or Reddit or anything, literally, like, the shit's changing by the hour.
Breakneck pace.
That's why I want to focus this episode more so on censorship, whether people are actually mad about censorship. Spoiler alert, they're not. And what it really means to live in an America that practices the first right or the First Amendment, and whether Twitter should be following, etc. Like, it's all that stuff, right? But let me paint a picture for you real quick. You're walking through the park, your favorite nearby park. You know, like, let's say you live in a big city, and let's pretend COVID either never happened or everyone's been vaccinated and it's happening again.
Can we live in that world, please?
Yeah. And so you're walking through the park, chilling, enjoy. Maybe you're with your SO, maybe you're hanging out with some friends, whatever. And then just one dude gets up on like a stage, or maybe he stands up on like the edge of a fountain or something. So he's like above.
That soap used to be in, perhaps.
A box of soap, exactly. And he gets up there and he yells something along the lines of, I don't know, get the firing squad ready. Mike Pence is first. And he just kind of keeps yelling that sort of rhetoric that's essentially saying, death to the Vice President of the United States of America. Is he practicing his right to free speech?
We're in a public park.
I mean, yes, he is.
Yeah, he is. Oh, great. Yeah, of course. Good. He's an American. He deserves to say that. Would it be okay if the police arrested him afterward?
Absolutely.
Wait, but he was practicing his free speech. How could you fucking liberals, man?
Oh my God.
They say they want free speech, but then the minute they punish someone for practicing free speech while saying evil, mad rhetoric, we can't say it anymore.
But Congress isn't the one arresting him. He could then take the case. He's within his rights to take the case all the way up to the Supreme Court, which is usually what people love to threaten. It's like, I'm going to take this to the highest court in the land. Mm-hmm. And then it would be up to those appointed people to decide whether or not this was an infringement on his First Amendment rights. This arrest.
Yeah. And that is the probably one of the hottest issues right now. Is a lot of people misconstrue the First Amendment as being also freedom from consequence.
Hey.
And by the way, if someone was doing that, they could simply get you on the charges of disturbing the peace.
Yeah, that's a pretty basic one. But then there's also the much bigger charge of threatening a elected official.
Yeah, that's not allowed, right? That's not okay.
Well, threatening anyone really isn't allowed. Like, especially if it's very specific, like, hey, Johnny who lives on 14, West Avenue, I'm going to murder you and your family tonight. Like, if you say that very seriously, not great. You could send that to the local police or the FBI, and they might be watching you a little bit more.
Everyone named Johnny just jumped. Sorry, Johnny.
Sorry, Johnny.
That's the thing, is that's not going to keep you from getting consequences. And I mean, even if like you say that shit and you didn't mean it, you're going to go to court. You know, you're going to go to court and you have to prove your case in the court of law because you broke it. You disturb the peace at the very least, among many other things.
Also, if you do it in a Starbucks, in a privately owned place, they can be like, you said the word yellow, that is our banned word for the day. So
and it changes every
you're
day.
out. Yeah, it changes every day. We don't alert anyone to it, but the moment that you say it, we are allowed to oust you. And because it's a privately owned business that allows people of the public to come in, they're totally allowed to do that. The same way that they're allowed to be like, no shirt, no shoes, no service.
Mm-hmm.
Daily, and what a great way to explain what's happening on Twitter.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was
Hey.
about to pivot to. Because actually on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, both of those platforms owned by the one and the only, the Zuck, a certain man, I think you might have heard of him, Presidente Don Lad Trump, I think was his name. Don Lad
Ronald
Trump.
Trump.
That's his new account that he made. Yeah.
Ronald Trump.
So for one, he's banned on all those platforms, and then someone made a joke account that was, I forget the name, but it was something like John something, and it was a picture of Trump with a shitty Photoshop mustache. I don't know if you guys saw this.
Yeah, it was
yes.
Barron. It was like John Barron, because he used to genuinely on calls with reporters be like, oh yeah, this is not Donald Trump. This is someone that vaguely knows him. My name is John Barron. No relation to his son Barron Trump, that he apparently really likes the name Barron. And here's my totally unbiased opinion about Mr. Trump.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, basically now the president of the United States is banned on all the major social media networks. I guess Snapchat hasn't gotten involved, so you know.
Oh shit.
Who knows? Unless someone owns Snapchat and I forget. Or TikTok, you know, maybe Trump could make some hot TikToks. Who's to say?
Yeah.
Where's my MySpace login?
Yeah, MySpace. Yeah, and you know, there's for one, the reason that especially Twitter, but also Facebook banned him is that Trump is essentially inciting violence. He's using his platform to say, tweet, type things, post videos of him saying things that are making the ones that have stormed the Capitol feel loved and very special.
Exactly.
You're special.
We love you.
We love
You're
you.
very special.
Yeah, here's your baba.
Just that. That's a real quote.
Is Trump gonna lift up his shirt and give some nip? Be like, don't worry, just suck on this. Just give it a little sucky.
Yeah, that's an image, Colin. Thanks.
Thanks for that.
Yeah. So he's banned off those platforms now for essentially inciting violence.
Mhm.
And there are a lot of people on the left who are celebrating this, but there are also people on the left who are like, why wasn't this suit? It should have been done 5 years ago. And it's like, look, yeah, it should have been done earlier, but this isn't the time to bitch about that.
Yeah.
And then there are a lot of people on the right, specifically Trumpers, specifically the people who live and die and breathe, Don Lad Trump, who are saying...
Don Lad.
Don Lad Trump.
Turnip.
They're saying that this is an infringement of the First Amendment. He has the freedom of speech, and of course, big tech, who's liberal and probably run by Antifa, are infringing his freedom of speech.
Big tech is
People
bringing
have
down
been-
communism upon us single-handedly.
Mm-hmm. Just
People
the
have
one
been
big
banned
tech.
for so much less on any of those platforms.
Yeah.
Maybe inciting violence is probably the biggest one on a national level.
And
I don't
like,
know.
The evidence there's overwhelming evidence of it when it was literally like January 6th, see you then. And just like the continual rhetoric that it's like, okay, we need to be peaceful, but yes, very bad, evil things have happened, and our country is going to descend into total turmoil if you don't overthrow my enemies. Like, when it's pretty explicit at that point. Like, he doesn't have to literally say, like, go hang Mike Pence, but I think a common sense approach of translating his wonderful tweets then, you know, tells you that this is inciting violence. This is inciting a riot.
I mean, it doesn't even have to be tweets anymore. Look at the morning of. There was a Trump rally.
Yeah.
In D.C., down the street from where it happened. He literally told them, we're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I'm going to be right there with you. Spoiler alert, he wasn't. And we're going to encourage all of our Republican buddies, you know, the ones that are they're with me, that's fine. But we're going to encourage the ones that aren't to do the right thing and fix this broken election.
And I hate how vague that is. And that's just a good way to start bringing up this one book that a lot of people are citing on Twitter, 1984. Here's the thing. When people say that is so Orwellian, I feel like a lot of people on Twitter are using that to say like, oh, that is fascist rhetoric, or that's rhetoric I disagree with. It's Orwellian. That's not what Orwellian language is. Orwellian language is hiding and obscuring fascism and authoritarianism specifically through euphemistic language. So when Trump says something like, we're going to do the right thing, that sounds on the face of it like, of course I would support. I want to do the right thing. I like justice. I like peace. And those are things that I think are right. So I'm going to do the right thing and follow Trump. But then when you look past the euphemism, what he's saying is, we're going to bully and intimidate the people who disagree with me so they can make me president again, even though I didn't win through all of the actual systems that are in place that would make me president. But when you just say, but that's the right thing, it's a lot easier to agree with it. It's a lot easier to feel like you can justify those actions because of the language.
To construe that however one might. Maybe the right thing is, in that parlance, lynching Mike Pence. I mean, there was a noose. There was a noose on Capitol Hill, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we're at.
Ties.
The guy with the zip ties. Gosh.
Yeah. I mean, and I was telling Robert this too when all of this shit was going down. I was like, you think any one of those fucking idiots that stormed the Capitol could tell the difference between a Republican and Democrat senator, unless they're like one of the ones that's obviously got a shitload of screen time? Right. You know what I mean? There's no way every single one of those idiots have memorized the entirety of the Senate and the House, like what their faces are, what side of the aisle they're on. There's no way. They just don't. They would have cuffed the first motherfucker they saw. That's what would have happened.
Mm-hmm. As long as Trump wins, that's what matters to them.
Yeah. It's just Trump and Trump alone now. That's what it is. Even his supporters in Congress have abandoned him. You know.
Yeah, and
because
what I find
they can't. They had to. Otherwise, it would have been political suicide.
Right. Well, I mean, a lot of people in the House are still very much in support of Trump, but more senators are finally, I wouldn't say growing a spine, because I think they've always known what the right thing to do is, which is not.
Oh, no, it's not a spine.
Yeah, it's not growing a spine to realize, oh, supporting Trump is bad for the longevity of the American democracy. They're just finally realizing, oh, there are consequences. God, consequences? Shit, I don't like those.
Consequences to your actions.
I thought I didn't need to deal with consequences because of the color of my skin, but fuck.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they're basically standing in front of a tunnel, and the Trump train's coming in, and they're jumping out of the way at the last second. Is what's happening.
Yeah, we've had a long. It's a long tunnel. You could see the headlights way down there quite early on, I think. I don't know if we thought that it would come to this, but we definitely, I think as a society, didn't think that this wouldn't, was totally inconceivable.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's really telling, too, that even the senators who are staunch supporters of Trump, or the more than 100 Republicans in the House who are still very supportive of Trump, right? It's really telling that when the mob came in, or excuse me, in their language, the peaceful protesters who came into the Capitol to, of course, help someone like Ted Cruz get the result he wanted, which is Trump winning. Why would Cruz run away from that? They're just peaceful protesters who actually support his cause. So you would think that he'd join them, right?
Curious.
Curious.
curious, as people that argue in bad faith would say.
Yeah, what's that comic where it's like I think we should improve society somewhat, and it's like curious, but you participate in society. Very curious.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
So a lot of Trumpers are calling all of the things happening in big tech right now censorship. And it's something I wanted to throw to you two. Is it censorship for Twitter to finally say, Trump, you can't have a Twitter account anymore?
No. I'm going to go out on a limb here. Hot take. No. It's a private business, totally has the freedom to suddenly become like a total liberal echo chamber if they were to want to do that. They could just suddenly purge everyone that doesn't talk about tropical fish and just become whatever. Twitter can do what it wants. And even if we were to say like, well, Twitter has become a utility, a public utility. It's a town square and it's important for communication to the point that it should be like protected, or the government should have some oversight on it. Even at this point, it's like you have to draw a line somewhere. And I think that demonstrably Trump has crossed that line several times that other accounts have been banned for previously. So he's had enough chances where people that are getting kicked from social media, it's just consequences to your actions. It's just, you shouldn't have expected to get away with it for this long. And I think that's where people are surprised that there's consequences. It's like, but you let me do this before.
Yep. I think what people don't understand. Okay, so let's talk about Reddit for a second, because we can't get away with an episode like that with this without mentioning Reddit. R/conservative. Okay. If you're someone, right, who participates in any really given subreddit, but I'm going to use r/conservative because it's relevant. They have a set of rules, right? Not just Reddit's rules, but r/conservative's rules. Here's what you got to do. Here are the rules for when you make a post. Here's the requirements you have to meet in order to even be a part of the community, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so in that sense, right, Twitter, imagine it's a gigantic subreddit. It's no fucking different. Twitter has its own set of rules, and it's got its own moderators, and it's privately owned. Okay? That is not a place where free speech is allowed. You cannot say whatever the hell you want. If Twitter deems what you say as deplorable or bannable, boom, you're gone. You're done. Mm-hmm. That is their platform. They are paying for it. They have shareholders. If they want someone gone, they can do that. Same with Facebook. Like I don't and Instagram for that matter. I don't understand why that's so hard to understand.
I guess people keep bringing up like it's not ethical though to do that, to silence people. Even if we disregard the idea of like the First Amendment, it's like, well, that's you're taking away someone's voice and ability to express themselves.
Right. And I think that's where the concept of censorship and consequence get really conflated. And they do this thing that the right likes to accuse the left of doing, which is cherry picking the facts that support their narrative. And I'm going to say the A word, agenda.
Hashtag.
Yeah. Conservatives have an agenda too. It's not just the gays. All right.
It's we all have our planner books.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But so when you think about it with censorship versus consequence, right? So yes, there are rules, and it's really ironic that the party of law and order suddenly doesn't like it when the rules are enforced and call it censorship as if it's a bad thing. But that's
it's called a double standard.
Ooh.
Funny you say that.
Love those.
Because it's very true. But censorship at its core is something like based on the color of your skin, you're not allowed to say anything in this forum. Just by an inherent stupid criteria, we can just look at you and say, nope, you don't have a voice here. That's in a way censorship. Or it's like It's like China, where they heavily censor really any rhetoric around Hong Kong, unless it's like Hong Kong is subservient to China and glorious leader.
Where's Jack Ma?
Yeah, really.
Yeah, you want to talk about fucking censorship? Let's talk about Hong Kong. I mean,
yeah, like that's what real censorship is. Censorship is not when you do something that breaks the rules, or even let's forget rules. Let's pretend this is a lawless land. If you say something that eggs on a mob that has caused 5 deaths and is stopping the actual process of democracy from happening, that's kind of in bad taste. Rules or not, you know?
You're probably gonna get arrested. And if it's lawless, you can't then be surprised when someone that's like, you're doing something very wrong, punch happens.
Yeah, I mean, think of it this way. Like, yes, Trump can't Twitter, he can't Facebook, he can't Instagram right now because, again, those are privately owned platforms, right? And they deemed it against the rules, what he was saying, and boom, he's gone. This isn't censorship in the Hong Kong sense, where anyone who speaks out against the government or anything of the sort is being taken away. No, that's not what it is, because if Trump wants to get his message out there, he has plenty of ways he could find to do it. You know, he could literally just tell the press, hey, I want to have a press conference. Here's my message. And
there's
guess what?
There's a room for that.
Yeah. He can literally get his message out there. I mean, he's not going to release it as official underneath under the White House, whatever official statement, because I don't think those staff would allow that. But like, at least I hope to God.
I mean, he's said before, like, we should start Trump media, and he has money and influence to do that. He could do that. There's also, our alternative platforms like Parler and Gab, which I was not aware of Gab's existence, but apt name question. Or 4chan, 8chan, like they're there. Those
8chan's dead now.
Is it dead now?
It's now 8kun.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, it's worse.
But yeah, I mean, the point is like, if he wants to get a message out there, he can get it out there, guys. It's not avenues. Like he's being silenced. There's a difference.
Yeah. And this is a good time, I think, to bring up Kara Swisher of the New York Times. She does this podcast, and it's called Sway. And last week, the night of the attack, or I guess it was published the morning after it, she did an interview with the CEO of Parler. Would highly recommend listening to it because it's kind of wild. The CEO's take on censorship and moderation. But if you don't know what Parler is like Twitter, but like if you think Twitter's bad, which it can be pretty bad. Parler is like where people actually do say, line up the firing squad, Mike Pence is first. That's real. That was on Parler. A lot of the attack on Jan 6th was coordinated via Parler. That was the revolution in their eyes, because that's a world, Parler is a world where they can say what they want, because there is almost no moderation there, which is why it's such a haven for alt-right extremists right now.
It was really interesting hearing of the way that he talked about on the podcast how that it's a public forum, and therefore the public gets to say what is or isn't posted, in the sense that there's like 5, I think, people chosen to judge a post and be like, oh, that's appropriate, or oh, that's inappropriate. And then the majority just rules like, oh yeah, it's fine to say that, or no, it's not okay to say that. The only thing that is just like out of hand taken down is like doxing. But otherwise it's just up to a couple people to decide like, oh yeah, it's fine to say like, get the firing squad ready. And at this point, and he really dodges saying it, because he's like, I'm not a conservative, like anyone can be on this platform. But at the moment, unsurprisingly, it's very right leaning. And therefore, unsurprisingly, this is where a lot of the organization for what happened on Wednesday happened.
I I first of all, I want to talk about this just as a human being. If I create a platform, whether I intended it for this use or not, right? For like just people with right-leaning ideas can speak their mind, because I mean, something leads me to believe that's kind of why he set out to make it in the first place, but he hasn't said that, so I'm not saying that's the official reason, but it feels that way. If I create a platform and somebody literally goes through with an attack on the fucking capital of the most powerful country in the nation, and it was all planned on my platform.
Powerful country in the nation?
Or powerful country in the world. Sorry, Freudian slip. I might sit there and like maybe rethink my life a little bit. I'm just saying. I might sit there and be like, yeah, this shit's getting taken down. I don't know. I don't understand how...
You would. He didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have a clear conscience after something like that.
And, you know, a lot of it is unfortunately born out of how politicized it is. Like everything really is, right? Which, you know, it's ironic coming from me because I think everything is political. Even the stance of I don't like politics is a very political stance.
I'm not going to vote. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a very privileged stance too. And I'm talking to you,
doesn't
CEO.
Sway even say that in the?
Or yeah, Kara says like, yeah, it's pretty privileged to like not be interested in politics
because he's like, I don't want to participate in this mess, and it's like, well, by not participating, you are inherently participating.
Yeah, John. So you know, think about your life a little more. But what's so annoying is that it's now an appropriate conservative view to have, which is the government committed fraud and is trying to make Joe Biden the next king of America. And I, as a red-blooded American, have to fight for the revolution to save America from the evil Antifa leftists who have already infiltrated the American government. Q told me so. I swear. I know it's
Civil
true.
War.
That's why I have to bring my guns to the Capitol to save America.
I've never heard of like QAnon, but I heard there's a lot of good people on there.
Yeah.
Oh my fucking God.
Yeah.
And
Trump likes to say.
It's interesting. Something I wanted to touch on briefly too is that it's suggested that a lot of these people just like in good faith don't believe in the bullshit that they're spouting in like the QAnon, like the Democrats eat children for their adrenal glands or something, but they do want to be in the right, in the sense of like we're doing the right thing by taking down this greater, like the Democrats or the left or Antifa, but they don't believe quite in the amazing conspiracy that is fucking QAnon.
Right. And in that interview, the CEO, John Motz, I think, his whole thing was, I don't want to moderate Parler because how did he phrase it? It was along the lines of like, once I start moderating, where does it end? Which is such a slippery slope / straw man argument that is so stupid. Because he condemned Twitter for banning Trump off the platform, because then his argument went further and was saying, so what's stopping Twitter from banning a lot of other conservative voices they don't like, right? Nothing. And that's very true. Twitter could make, like, Jack Dorsey could make Twitter a liberal echo chamber or socialist echo chamber, if we want to be real vitriolic, right? But here's the thing. Twitter's been around for over a decade, I think. And Trump is like the first really major politician I can think of that they've banned. And it wasn't because he's a conservative and we don't like conservatives. It was because he literally incited a riot, like on the Capitol. Like, that's a pretty good reason to ban someone.
Like, what more fucking reason do you need? Like, what will it take? Like, a massacre?
It could have been
a genocide, because there could have easily been several more people that fucking died that day, and there was already 5 that are dead, as we know of right now at the time of this recording. And right now on Parler, they're planning another attack on the 17th.
No, not an attack, Colin. It's a march to save America.
Well, they're also calling for people to be armed. So you tell me.
That's just expressing their Second Amendment rights.
Yeah.
Colin, I think you're trying to paint them out to be bad people.
I believe that there's a recent movement of calling firearms anti-tyranny tools.
Mm-hmm.
So you should refer to them appropriately as such.
Yeah, I hate everything. It's so shitty that this is where we are.
It's so frustrating to me that it's like people are literally like, I can't see his tweets on Twitter anymore. Like, my favorite pundit isn't on Twitter anymore. When it's like, did y'all sit through history class? Because like when like after the revolution, after even the Civil War, like real censorship was lynchings, mass lynchings, people being dragged out into the street and murdered for not even expressing their opinions, but because their opinions were construed to be inherently, quote unquote wrong because of the color of their skin, and them wanting to vote for something that would benefit them. And
God forbid.
God forbid that, because then it wouldn't be a white supremacy anymore, and that's where we're at yet again.
Yeah, and it's so wild because it really is insane to me how much all of this information, or misinformation rather, can be just traced all the way back to Trump. Like, it all starts with him. It does. For the most part. Like, it's a lot of people taking what he says, hey, he has a platform, it's giving what he says, and people hanging on his every word, and there's plenty of people in government that enabled him.
It is very powerful when you have literally a very powerful person being like, what you did is okay. Or even if they say, it's not okay, but at the end it's like, hey, we love you, you're very special.
Very special. Tuck in at night. Mwah.
Yeah. It's a sign off on like, yeah, you did good. Good job.
Yeah. And I want to be a little bit reticent about putting all this on the feet of Trump, because it's not like if Trump goes to jail tomorrow, everything clear skies, sunny day, fascists are gone. Like, that's not gonna happen. It's a whole system, a system that's born out of white supremacy that has led to where we are now. Because that's the inherent, that's the thing in the middle of Trump's rhetoric, is he's not saying it out loud. Sometimes he does, but what he's really meaning is, you're white and it's okay to be better than everyone, because you deserve that. You deserve to be better than black people.
Whiteness and Americanness has been conflated in Trumpism.
Yeah.
And that's where all of his rhetoric is coming from. So it's not just Trump. Like, Trump was able to seize all of it because he's a very charismatic speaker, but he won't be the first. Well, he isn't the first, and he won't be the last.
No, I mean, obviously he isn't directly responsible for some of the things that have happened, but he's putting all the pieces in place, he's enabling those people, and never once has he condemned the wrong people,
because they're the right people to him.
Both sides. There's fine people on both sides.
Fine people. Yeah. Proud Boys stand back and stand by. And they certainly fucking did.
Not on the 6th. They did not stand back or by.
No, they were busy fighting cops, ironically enough.
Although, I guess, to be fair, I have heard recently on the ether, on the winds, that actually it was Antifa that did, not the Proud Boys. It's certainly no real Trump support. It was Antifa pretending to be Trump support, to make Trump supporters look bad. Because, of course, like, Antifa doesn't have other things to do, like be against fascism or anything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because Antifa's going to go out of their way to attack the Capitol when an election in their favor is happening. That makes sense.
Yeah. I loved Hey Gamers, you might like this fun fact. They were like, "Oh, we got him. We are able to connect the people who were, standing right in the middle of the Capitol building in their furs. They were wearing a lot of fur. Some Davy Crockett looking motherfuckers, but
some Scandinavian battle clothing.
Yeah, but one guy, he had a tattoo on his hand, and people were like, "Oh, that's a a sickle and hammer. He's a communist." And then it's like, okay, enhance CSI, it is the fucking tattoo of the outsider from fucking Dishonored.
Yeah, it's Corvo. It's Corvo's tattoo from Dishonored.
Corvo's tattoo. Yeah.
Which, by the way, game has a lot of anti-tyranny, anti-fascist messaging going on.
I'd like to remind everyone, if you haven't played Dishonored, or even if you have and it's been a while, because it's definitely been a while, that's a game literally about a magic assassin overthrowing a government ruled by the few who are very tyrannical, who do like censorship, especially when they disagree with whatever other message there is, and are literally avoiding a plague of rats. But COVID is real. Like,
what the fuck?
Yeah, it's really salient. And then this numbnut asshole is like, oh, I love Dishonored, but also, like, I love fascism, man. Let's go.
This is what we get for the people that are like, keep politics out of my video games. They're totally two separate spheres.
Yeah. So the thing about this event that happened was, by now, well, firstly, a lot of those people have been arrested. A lot of the people that were in the prominent pictures and things like that. So that's being shared around right now. But secondly, there is some footage that is coming out of, like, people like inside the Capitol and right next to, like, right in the crowd, right when it was happening. And the thing that's so damning is there really wasn't much organization to what was happening. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's, like, people were aimless when they didn't have really any specific goal in mind. They were just there to thrash shit and wreck shit. I mean, God forbid if they actually were organized and they actually knew where to go.
There's a couple missing computers, and I think that's going to be the extent of the security concerns as far as lasting repercussions.
Yeah, and honestly, in a sense, the fact that these people were so aimless and they were just gathered together to wreck shit is more scary, especially if they decide to come back, and especially if they decide to come back armed.
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing is, if this was organized, maybe they did have a specific goal in mind. Maybe they were going for a specific person. But now if you have a stupid, just overly sized mob that comes to the Capitol that doesn't have any specific aim in mind, that's how many people die. For no apparent reason.
But their reason is it's for justice.
Yeah, and then next thing you know, they kill the guy that's trying to work for their interests anyway.
Yeah.
Or trample a woman, yeah.
I mean, all it takes is for Trump to say Pence is actually a traitor. And there you go. Now everyone wants to hang Pence. And that's all it takes, because these people won't even consider facts or logic. Ironically, these super hardcore alt-right conservatives care more about their feelings than the facts. Very ironic. Yeah. Fuck you, Ben Shapiro. Anyway,
Jesus.
He's got his part in this. Like, he is not innocent.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of conservative pundits. Well, I couldn't even call them conservative. Honestly, I've been struggling with this a bit, because I do think there are conservatives out there who are very much not a fan of what happened on the 6th, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's such a shame, because we still have to call them call this movement a conservative movement, when really it's the Trumpist movement.
It's Trumpism. It's not. Yeah. It's well beyond Republican conservative at this point.
Yeah, there was a time when it wasn't like one side is doing demonstrably evil things and the other side is saying that the other side is doing demonstrably evil. I don't know. At one point we were all able to talk to each other and do that thing, like reach across the aisle, nonpartisanship, but it's built up to this point, and here we are. And maybe social media has a part in that, because it's nice to be able to tweet snappy phrases rather than have nuanced conversations.
Yeah, I'm still gonna put a little bit of faith in humanity and go out on a limb and say this. It's still the vocal minority, because there are plenty of people that either support Trump or at one time supported Trump and flip the coin on that. that are now condemning what happened, that aren't comfortable with what happened at all, and are leaving it at that. I mean, there are plenty of people that are denouncing this thing, and they're kind of coming to their senses a little bit. And so I don't know. I would like to think that there are people out there that like they see this and they're just like, whoa, pump the brakes. Like what the hell's going on? And that's why it scares me that there's going to be allegedly something like this in just another week or so. And that's when I'm just like, okay, are we going to bring out the fucking military this time? Is there going to be tanks finally instead of this?
Who's in charge of the military?
Well, and we only use those on the black people, Colin.
I fucking guess so.
Yeah,
I fucking guess so. And don't even get me started about the people that are comparing this to the protests that happened this past summer.
Oh, let me get into that because that's
my
thing
God.
I want to get into. So it's a real big thing on the Trumpist side of the internet they're coming out of the woodworks and being like, oh, all these liberals condemning this peaceful protest against the Capitol. Where were you when you weren't condemning the riots over the summer, right? But
we were condemning the riots. We were all for the protesters.
Yeah, there is that, right? But of course they're lumping it in as like, you should have been condemning Black Lives Matter if you're going to condemn this attack on the Capitol. Here's the difference, right? Black Lives Matter is a very important movement, right? It's a movement that is all about getting more, giving Black people more of a voice because
it's in the name. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been 300 years. America's been pretty shitty to people who aren't white. Like, spoiler alert, it's kind of just baked in a lot. And that's a very important movement. And it is a shame that some of that rhetoric got buried under like small businesses having their windows broken and looted, or people like throwing rocks at cops or riot geared cops, right? Like, those are some actors acting in bad faith. But like, even at the worst BLM protest, the worst thing that would happen is like a lot of people getting arrested, a lot of tear gas, a lot of mace, pepper spray, rubber bullets. The assault on the Capitol, if the worst thing happened there, we wouldn't have a US fucking government anymore.
Yep.
Totally different scale, yo.
Yep.
Yeah, a little bit. Not even once did anyone consider storming the Capitol. I mean, they were up and down DC, the BLM protests, and never once did anyone encroach on the grounds of the White House, on the grounds of the Capitol. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not to this degree. People were deliberately wrecking political buildings in DC, and people were thinking that like state houses were going to get wrecked and shit like that. And it's not happening. In fact, that's about to happen right now. There are state houses throughout this fucking country that, I mean, Jay Inslee just deployed the National Guard here in Washington.
He's the governor, by the way.
The governor of Washington State, deployed the National Guard there to Olympia to protect the state house.
Yeah,
because now people are scared throughout the country.
It's the difference between speech and violence. And for some reason, like when people are like, well, because you shut down the Capitol riot, you're shutting down our free speech and expressing that, when it's like, actually, when a bunch of SWAT teams suddenly come in and start pepper spraying people that are having a violin vigil for a murdered man, that's censorship. That's censorship of free speech. That's infringing on people's rights. But when you're breaking windows and like jumping into a building that you're not supposed to be in, that's different. That's violence.
And when you're stopping one of the most important moments in democracy, like let's be clear here, right? The joint session of certifying the electoral college votes should take like 30 minutes. It should be a very boring, very unceremonious 30 minutes that no one wants to watch on TV.
Yeah. C-SPAN.
Because it's not news. It's just like 600 people in a room saying, yep, the 100+ million people who voted are right. This person is now president and that person's vice president. It's supposed to be boring. And these rioters rioted so hard that they pushed back that stupid little meeting because they thought there was a glimpse of hope. They could intimidate them to say, actually, even if it looks like Biden won, you should give it to Trump, the real winner.
Yeah, it's literally like, okay, we're going to be a mob and throw a temper tantrum because our guy didn't win.
Versus
That's really what it is.
We're going to desperately ask you to stop killing us.
Yeah, like okay. On one hand, you have mostly peaceful protests with rioters that were opportunists that did take the opportunity to break shit, and they knew someone else they could displace blame on was there, so they did that. But this protest over here is about equal rights. This one over here is a tantrum that led to trying to overthrow an election. There's a little bit of a fucking difference.
Yeah.
Chotto, just a little bit.
Yeah.
And by the way, they were enabled and let in by all the cops there, and the cops were taking selfies with them. I don't understand what was happening with the authorities there, and now they're under investigation because of it.
And you can only hope that come inauguration week, that'll change. I hope. I really do.
Wow.
I mean, no one. I mean, they already talked about that Joe Biden's like inauguration is going to be really stripped down. They're going to up security, which is like, God forbid, they really need to at this rate. Like that man should be covered in a bulletproof suit. I don't know, like that.
I want him to come out in power armor, like from Fallout.
We've been building a prototype, and we think, Joe, you're the first person to
Joe,
try
you
this
are
out.
Iron Man now.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know. Like, you know, I always thought that there was going to be someone out there that hates Trump enough to like find a way to him, if you know what I mean. But this is like the closest I've ever felt to that. And that's with Joe Biden in this case.
Well,
and
I mean, this is big generalization incoming here.
Yeah.
So let me preface it with every individual human life is you're very loved and very special. Okay. When it comes to thinking about Trump supporters versus Biden supporters, well, actually, that's kind of ironic because even the like Democrats, not all of them are really excited about Biden. So maybe that's just a whole other like that's a whole other different thing about, you know, just politics. But so if you think about someone who would support Trump, they seem like they're pretty angry people and are willing to use whatever tools are at their disposal to exact justice, if you know what I mean.
Anti-tyranny.
But if you look at a Biden supporter, I feel like, yeah, I'm sure there are some extremists in the Biden camp too, but it's not that prevalent. You don't think of, you know, a Biden, like if there were Biden rallies, I probably don't expect to see a gun, like even one, unless it's like on a police officer or something.
Yeah. We saw Biden rallies during the campaign trail and everyone's sitting in their car and going, honk, honk, I agree with you, honk, honk.
Like their most dangerous weapon was their car they used to go to work every day. Like
their Honda Accord.
Yeah. But if you look at a Trump rally, it's like, oh, everyone probably has like a gun in their boot.
Everyone's wearing boots.
Yeah.
The boots themselves are but genuinely.
You ever been kicked by a boot?
No. Knock on wood. Please don't kick me.
Pretty dangerous. I'm just saying. They're not the safest of shoes.
Yeah. I mean, there's fucking footage of this Capitol invasion. I mean, somebody got into the Capitol building with a fucking M16 or some sort of like assault rifle looking weapon. And I mean, that's why you saw the image of Secret Service or whoever, some sort of guards like with guns aimed at the door, looking like a fucking COD Zombies map.
It was so wild too,
while
because
people were trying to break into the Senate floor.
Because they just kept doing it. They were like, "You're not going to shoot us. You're not gonna do anything." And
you won't.
You know, it was that kind of attitude, and it's unfortunately correct because these people have not experienced the kind of experience that a lot of people in this country have with law enforcement, in which any interaction might lead to your death.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas other people, dare I say white people, can be privileged enough to literally push around cops or beat them with a fire extinguisher. And until they succumb to their wounds, which is what fucking happened. To Officer Sicknick is his name.
Sicknick, I think.
Sicknick, yeah.
Yeah.
And so to bring this all back to the internet, because it's definitely too much. So we're now in a world where the king of Trumpism is not on the more mainstream social media sites, namely Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And then we have a rise in more alt-right message boards. Primarily Parler, I would say, is the biggest one to keep an eye on, because there have been a lot of calls for death on Parler of like elected officials.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are Pence, but also a lot of Democrats. Because the Democrats are evil, obviously, of course. They eat babies and all that.
Yeah. AOC is a communist.
Oh, don't even get me started on AOC. She's a democratic socialist. Am I right?
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah, I hate it. So now we're in this place where I think America has always been a very politically divided country, especially in the past 5 years now, which, probably related to the rise of fascism and Trumpism. But now it's not just America's politics that are divided. It's now we're seeing a world where our discourse is being divided, where all the liberals are going to foment around Twitter, while all the alt-right conservative Trumpers are going to ferment in Parler until they explode with guns. And that's scary.
It's extremely scary. And I think the craziest thing about the last 4 or 5 years is it's gotten to the point where I'm not even going to say Republicans and conservatives anymore, because these aren't Republicans or conservatives. They're Trumpists. I'm just going to call it, they're Trumpists. No, they're Trumpists, fascists.
Straight up fascists, yeah.
Yeah, even if they don't call themselves that.
Like trumpet
even
players.
Even if they don't know it.
Right now.
What's that?
I feel bad for trumpet players.
Oh, sorry.
in this new world.
Are they known as? Wait, are they?
I thought it was Trumpists. I don't know.
They're trumpetists.
Trumpeters.
Trumpeters.
Okay.
Trumpeters. Yeah, but maybe it's a good time to play the sax. It's a good, great instrument, and it's like one letter away from sex, which is hot as hell. So
yeah, But my point is though is it's just become so difficult to have any sort of civil discourse at all anymore, because we're not even in the same ballpark, we're not even in the same league, we're not even in the same fucking sport, to quote Samuel Jackson from Pulp Fiction. You know what I'm saying? We're living in separate realities. These people have been echo chambered and algorithmed so goddamn hard that they no longer see the world the same way.
Mm-hmm.
How do you talk to someone and debate with someone and try to change someone's view or openly talk about politics or whatever when baseline level, they're not even seeing the world the same way at all? There's no common ground there. They're like, yeah, but I've heard this and I've heard that and I read this and I know this. And these are the facts. These are alternative facts, because that's a thing now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is a thing. Yeah. And so it's well, actually this, no, that's not what that's not what I've read. That's not what I've heard. And so there's just no baseline level. And it's I am genuinely scared that it's just going to get to the point until this explodes, until it turns into something that turns violent and people die.
Here we are.
I mean, I'm sorry I'm painting a bleak picture, but that's just where I'm at with this. I don't know how to turn this around. We can keep trying to have productive conversation and be civil, but it's turning into the thing where the reality of what's happening is being denied so hard that you just can't turn these pull these people back.
Yeah,
you just can't.
Let me
Yeah,
no, go ahead. Let me invoke the namesake of our podcast, everything in moderation, including moderation. But I think we need more moderation. I think we've lost that along the way. It's either you have to lean all the way one way or lean all the way the other way. And as much as I definitely am a person to make fun of centrists who are a little bit of white supremacy is okay, when obviously if you're a functioning human being, no, that's not okay. But you're right, Colin. We just don't have that baseline that anyone can agree. Like, where is the moderate stance? Where is our baseline? We should all believe in XYZ. We've lost that.
Yeah. And I just want to say though too is like, I think what's extremely frustrating about like the movement with Trumpism and these people that are storming the Capitol is some of their philosophical ideals, right, are at least somewhat agreeable, like in the sense that like politicians are bad and they haven't done shit for us. Well, yeah, like our government is very slow to do things. And there are a lot of politicians that act against our own self-interest. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I mean, shit, a shitload of people have been voting against their own self-interest without even knowing it, including Republicans, including Democrats. You know, I mean, more so Republicans now, I feel like, because they say they're for one thing, but the people that they're voting for just implement absolutely opposing policies. Mm-hmm. You know, but, you know, at a baseline level, like, that's the sentiment that I can sympathize or empathize with, whichever word. And like, but they're going about it in just such a wrong way. Like they're targeting the wrong people. You know, they're doing it for the wrong reasons.
And, you know, I think it goes down to your central point there, right? That is, we're living in two realities, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, Daly, I do agree with you too. I'm not a big fan of like political centrists, you know, because it's like, come on, man, you know, you think about it a little harder. I'm sure you feel more about one way or the other. Mm-hmm. Right. But where I do like centrism is it lies in the center, right? Like I would say right now where we are in America, Joe Biden is probably closer to centrist or center of the political spectrum than left, which is fine. Because frankly, anything that's not further to the right is good with where we are right now. But so when it comes to having a shared reality, there's this political term called the Overton window, right? Which is essentially it's the most commonly agreed like set of ideas and opinions that are considered the center of the political spectrum as we are right now. And it determines what is something that is very left versus something that's very right. And the Overton window is always shifting because the world's always shifting, right? Mm-hmm. Right now, we are not sharing the same Overton window. We're not even close to it. And the reason for that lies in the fact that the alt-right media, with their alternative facts and fake news, have created a new reality that these people can feel like it truly exists. They feel like they can live in this world where they do have these set of what they think are facts and can live in that world because they've made everything feel logically sound. Because, you know, we all need a little bit of that in our lives, mm-hmm. right? To understand, you know, like fire hot, it hurts. Okay, that's a fact I can do, and I could build my world from there, right? I know to avoid fire in whatever house I build. And what these people have done have built their world where facts are Democrats are stealing the election. There is widespread fraud, and the media and the politicians are lying about it to cover it up. And when you inundate yourself with that, I can empathize with them and see why they think they're freedom fighters, why they think they're leading a revolution to save America, because that picture of America, one where politicians in the news are lying to you constantly, that sounds awful. I don't want to live in America like that. Yeah. But the thing is, you don't. That isn't what America is right now at all, no. Even a little bit. But what you're asking these people to do is, hey, that world you live in, all lies. And that's hard. That's a hard message to get across. It's a big ask
to ask someone to de-radicalize out of that. Mm-hmm. Especially when it's very nice to be like, I'm the hero of this story. I'm the underdog. And we love an underdog story in America, don't we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it stems from a place of like, you know, we got a guy that's going to go against the government. And so now through, you know, his speech, his charisma, his words, like the incendiary things that he says, it's somehow made that pill of there being an alternate reality super easy for people to swallow, which is kind of incredible if you think about it. But at the same time, it's extremely scary. And like I said in the last podcast, it's I know it's so cliche at this point to invoke Hitler, right? But he's the example that we go to. Is like that shit didn't happen overnight. You know what I'm saying? Like, people didn't become okay with it, one day. They didn't wake up one morning and say like, oh well, Jews should be dead. I mean, that's fine. Like. It was years upon years of propaganda, of people being poor, of their economy being shit, right? And they had this guy pull them out of it, and he kept feeding them lies. He kept feeding them things that he wanted them to believe. And now, in that case, you had people living in an alternate reality.
The Reichstag is burning, y'all.
Yeah. And it took the fucking Holocaust and a World War to pull them out of it.
Like, they realized then, it took Hitler misjudging a Russian winter. Like that. That was a big part of it too.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. And it's like that's what it took for people to finally say, whoa, pump the fucking brakes. This isn't worth all these people dying. Also, atomic bombs are a thing.
Yeah, a lot happened in World War II, just saying.
Yeah, a lot of big stuff happened. But here's the thing. I've seen this quote being shoveled around Twitter recently that was essentially like, we had a word for Nazis that supported the party because of like fiscal responsibility or better life or all of these things that sound really good. And you know what we called them? Nazis. Because, yeah, that's the thing is you're joining a group where even if you don't agree with like, oh, all the Jews and gypsies are bad. Like you say, like maybe your stance is, I mean, I think they're people, but I still kind of like being able to afford a home and be happy. So
I'm benefiting from the genocide of a people.
Right. And here again, hear me out. The genocide, I don't like it, but I'm going to support the Nazis still. That's what a lot of Trumpists are kind of doing right now, where, if, in some ways I agree in that like Trump has done very few, I don't want to say good things, but definitely interesting things in the government, like the whole thing in like the Middle East and how they've signed more peace deals, or how he's been a really strong man against China and North Korea. That's a stance he's taking, and that's fine. And it's actually, it might be the best thing he's done in his presidency, which is a very low bar. And even then, don't take me wrongly for this. I'm not saying I support those things. I'm just saying like those are the few very presidential things he's done, right? Those are the things that you can look at and be like, do I support or not support Trump? But these people are looking at Trump's rhetoric and his thinly veiled racist, white supremacist rhetoric. And even if they don't identify as a white supremacist, they're liking a lot of the other stuff he's saying still. Like America should be great. And are able
that's
to...
That's a hard statement not to agree with, unfortunately.
And they're just sweeping like, I'm okay with like a little bit of white supremacy as long as it makes America great. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Make Hitler's catchphrase, make it Germany great again. I mean, that's what he tried to do.
Essentially.
And I don't need to, like, I don't mean to keep driving at I know it's such a cliche to do the whole Hitler thing, but there's a scary amount of parallels, man. There is.
The year before Hitler took power in Germany, there was a failed coup that he directed that didn't have a lot of consequences to it. So a lot of people are saying that's why we need to come down really hard, set a precedent that this isn't okay, because otherwise it's just going to happen again. And and it could be worse. Yeah.
I don't know. And I just, at the end of the day, I really just don't. No more people need to get hurt. Like no one needs to. This doesn't need to turn into a big thing. Like,
well, I don't know. I think it does need to be a big. If they're going to start,
it's a big deal. Yes.
Well, but if they're going to stage a coup, there needs to be a fair Like, there needs to be repercussions to it, and the
Oh,
repercussion
absolutely.
can't just be a slap on the wrist. Don't do that again. Like, it's got to be more than that.
Yeah, and they already started with just letting them into the Capitol building.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, these people were just let in, and I don't know. It's really scary. It's really scary, and it's not going to be a joke to people anymore when a legitimately large number of people start dying. Yeah.
Bleak episode this week, y'all.
Yeah, sorry
It's a
about
bleak
that.
topic.
Yeah.
But it's
yeah, before
important
we
to talk
wrap up,
about.
It is, yeah, and like, you know, we had I wouldn't say a really lighthearted episode planned for this week, but it was, you know, not as dark as this. But then 2020 happened in 2021, so you know,
We didn't make it fucking a week into the year.
it was and you know, 2020, the worst thing that happened in the first week, like half of the Earth was on fire. So you know,
Just
is
par
this
for the
better?
course.
No.
We're just being consistent, at least. Question mark.
Yeah. I mean, it's really scary though when I do have people that I personally know in my social circles or like on my Facebook feed that are like leaving Facebook for Parler or interacting with people on Parler, and I'm like, that's scary. Like this, I mean, this shit is widespread. They may not subscribe to like something going as far as storming the Capitol, but just the mere fact that they're exposing themselves to what's becoming a right-swinging echo chamber. That's scary.
Oh, one shitty thing I meant to point out about Parler but didn't.
Yay.
It's portraying itself as like, you know, Twitter but without censorship. You can see tweets for free publicly. You don't need a Twitter account to see tweets. You do need to make a Parler account to see Parler stuff. So
That's
it's not,
shitty. I was
it's
gonna go
not
look. I don't
yeah,
wanna
it's
make
not
an
a public
account.
forum.
I
It
don't
is
want
a
to make an account.
yeah, you need to be a card-carrying Parler member. And bonus points, if you want to be verified on Parler, like if you want to get the equivalent of the blue check mark, you need to give Parler your social security number so they can identify you.
What the
So look,
fuck?
I'm just saying, John Motz, if you want to be a patriot, the FBI has tips.fbi.gov. You have a list of social security numbers. I'm just saying.
Wow. So I couldn't
You know
just
what-
be like horse ebooks, like totally anonymous.
Nope.
You
Well,
know what would
you
be,
can, just if you don't want to be verified.
what would be an absolutely hilarious outcome to the Parler thing is if it's just them amassing a shitload of personal information to
Yeah.
then turn around and just oust these people, either that or just steal their identities and just rob them straight up.
I'd hope it's not that.
I hope not either, but there's some sort of it would be some sort of hilarious if it was.
Parler's going to be interesting because right now, as it stands, it's officially off the Google Play Store, I believe, and Apple is like, if you don't start moderating, we're going to take you off of our platform as well. Is that right?
By the time you're hearing this, Apple will or will not have taken it off Parler by now. We're still in that 24-hour period after Apple issued the warning.
Exciting times. I wish I didn't live in exciting times. I wish I lived in really boring times.
Yeah.
May you live in interesting times.
What an insult. Fuck you.
It's a curse.
Don't curse me. Don't curse me with that.
Jesus. Yeah, I wished it was just as simple as like, you know, boring candidate A has different policies than boring candidate B, and now we're debating them. And it's just an ongoing debate to see if the government does anything. It's a little bit beyond that now.
Yeah. I miss the days when politics was really boring. Because, you know, there were some days when it was like that. Not in a while, but, you know.
Yeah.
So before we wrap this up, any final thoughts from either you two? Daily, do you have any parting wisdom?
You can find me on Parler at Horse Ebooks. No, don't.
Oh God.
Don't look at it.
Don't go to
Don't go to Parler. Don't go to Parler.
Colin?
Yeah, don't go to Parler. You know, I'm sorry. I'm really being bleak this episode too, and I just want to say that, like, you know, if you have people that are close to you that are subscribing to even some of these ideals that are being spouted alongside Trumpism or anything like that, the best thing you can do is just have a conversation. If you shut those people out, or just try to be argumentative or accusatory. It's just not the way to go. You're not going to convince anyone. You're just going to push them away further. And so like that's really the best thing you can do is just try to have a conversation, and it's probably not going to be easy. It's probably going to be really difficult if like nigh impossible, but it's the best thing you can do. And you know, because there's certainly people out there, you know, in my social circles that it's just like, hey, you just need to have a conversation, because in some cases that's all it takes.
Right.
Yeah.
I just want to say, next time you see someone misusing or misquoting 1984 on Twitter, fucking, you know, just let them know that they're not doing it right. Like, if you need a good example of Orwellian language, look at Ted Cruz's speech from Jan 6th when they were debating whether to throw out the votes. His argument was, we're doing this for the American people who have concerns about fraud, and we just want answers, which sounds nice, again, on the face. That's the point of Orwellian language. But what he really means is, let's keep investigating until we can justify throwing out the votes so Trump wins. That's the power of 1984. Look into it a bit more. Just think about how much power your words can hold, and how much power the words you don't say holds as well.
Yeah.
Check out your local library.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they're open.
Yeah.
It depends. COVID and all.
Yeah. Stay safe.
Oh, and also
wash your hands as usual.
And look up how to source things. If you don't know already, just look up how to cite sources and source things. Because I know a lot of people out there, your casual newsreader and stuff like that, don't know how to do that. And it's really surprising.
Is Trump a good source? Can I just say, like, Trump said it? So
yeah.
So it must be true.
Yeah.
Well,
I read it on the internet, so it must be true.
Well, some people even get mad when you quote Trump himself at them. They're just like, he didn't say that. I'm like,
he was kidding.
Love it.
Here's a video.
Kidding. He was joking.
Yeah, here's a literal video of him saying it. Well, he didn't mean it
He
that
didn't
way.
mean that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess it's fair to also say here, you know, we've been spewing a lot of facts today too, but if there's anything that you heard us say today that you either question, or maybe you're unsure, or you want to fact check us, you know, please do email us questions or everythinginpod@gmail.com, or tweet at us at everythinginpod, or comment down below on YouTube, because, you know, I mean, we like to think the things we're saying on this podcast are all correct. Obviously, we're the best people in the world.
Clearly.
But, you know, we don't always have all the facts, or maybe our interpretation of the facts isn't the quote unquote correct one. And I think we should open it up and say, like, this is a forum. This is for discourse. That's the most important thing. That's at the heart of the everything in moderation mantra, in a way. You know, it's like, it's always about talking about it to find the truth that lies in the middle, you know? Yeah. Or if you also just want to say, hey, great episode, comment that below too. That'd be great too.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. And I know we're trying to wrap up here, but I also wanted to reiterate what we said in the past. Like, we welcome people of, like, all walks of life and stuff to listen to this podcast. I mean, obviously, unless you're just, you know, going out there trying to hurt someone and things like that.
Or if you like pistachio ice cream, I will still die by that hill.
No serial killers, no pistachio ice cream lovers. Mm-hmm. That's our line, y'all.
And obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably consider yourself like at least a little bit open-minded, or at least willing to hear other people out. So likely you're not a hardcore Trumpist, but even if you're like conservative swinging, or like Republican or Democrat, well, like whatever your political leaning, I don't care. If you listen to this podcast and you can be civil, and you like, feel free to enjoy the show. Like, we may not agree on things, but, like, you know, it's okay to have civil discourse, and that's what we want to foster.
Mm-hmm. Civil disobedience.
Yeah. Disrespect your surroundings.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, I think we should end it here, or else we can keep going, because, you know what, the dread is real. So this has been Everything in Poderation. We hope you enjoyed this bleak episode. Next week, we hope to have a little bit more levity and fun in what we talk about, and not be kind of terrified about the state of the world.
Yeah. Yeah. With that said, you may continue your doom scrolling. Go back to your doom scrolling.
But for real, stay safe. Have a good week. Find some good vibes. Look up cat videos. You know, do what you need to do to chill, because you deserve it. Get off Twitter and Reddit for a little bit, damn it. I know you're scrolling through that while you're listening to us. Hell yeah. All right, you can catch us again next week. This has been Everything in Poderation. See you next time.